Cool. So what are hybrid applications? So the title's a little bit vague, but in the context of this talk, hybrid applications are mobile apps where some of the code is written using the native code for that platform, and the rest of the app is written using web technologies. So a standard mobile app, in this case I'm going to use Android. You have some user interface written using Java or XML. You have some business logic written using Java, and then you farm out as much of that as possible out to web services just to keep all your business logic somewhere else. Then that's supported, your app then is supported using, in the case of Android, the Dalvik runtime or any helper libraries. So if you want to do that, let's say barcode scanning, you would get some third-party library to do that. So how does a hybrid app differ? So you write the user interface using HTML. You have your business logic in JavaScript, again calling out to web services where possible. And where hybrid apps differ is that you have an abstraction layer. Here we'll use Cordova as an example, that abstracts away all the device-specific features and then projects them out so that your JavaScript and your web app can use them. Cordova also has the concept of plugins. So where you do need to write some native code, let's say a barcode scanner, you can plug that in and make that barcode scanner available to your JavaScript. So why might you want to do this? The primary reason is code reuse. So a hybrid application packaged with Cordova can work on iOS or Windows Phone or Android, and it all just sort of works. The other big benefit that customers have been telling us is that you get skill reuse. So they don't necessarily want to write their app in Objective-C when they already know how to do JavaScript and HTML. And then it's not, for hybrid apps aren't just trying to be as good as the native apps. So developing UIs using HTML is actually quite good. The tooling's really good. There's a serious number of libraries now as well for JavaScript, so you can do things like PDF generation all in JavaScript. So in lots of ways, doing your apps like this is actually better as well. So what are some of the issues that you might face if you decide to do this? The big one that people cite is performance. And it's true that generally, whenever you take an abstraction of any kind, there's going to be some cost or overhead. So we see this with, let's say, .NET versus Win32, or XNA versus doing DirectX directly. There's always a cost. So then when you start a project, you really have to decide, it's trying to find the balance between developer productivity now versus application performance later. So you just have to choose what's right for the project. There was an example recently where Facebook abandoned HTML5 because they couldn't make it work in a performant way. There's some guys over at Sencha who make a JavaScript framework, and they re-implemented their app, this Facebook app, and it was actually much faster than the Facebook native app. And it just sort of shows that it doesn't really matter what you use as long as you know how to use the tools correctly, and you can build crap code in JavaScript or native. It doesn't really matter. So then future direction. So the abstraction layer, Cordova, that we talked about, is their stated aim is to become less relevant. So more and more of this stuff is getting baked into HTML5 directly. So the other nice thing is there's a platform war at the moment. There's a sort of an arms race between Google, Apple, and Microsoft, where they all want to have the fastest JavaScript platform. So at the most recent Windows Phone launch, Microsoft got PhoneGap up on stage to talk about what they were going to do with Windows Phone 8. And in the future, there's a good chance that we will write most of our apps like this and then only go to native code when you need to. Any questions?
Does this mean that I have to write stuff in JavaScript now? I don't want to.
But you love JavaScript. It's your favorite thing in the whole wide world.
I don't want to write everything in JavaScript.
So the idea is with all these apps, you'll write as little as possible on the client. And then it's the cloud that's actually going to power all this stuff. So then you write your backend whatever you want. So when we did the Down Tools Week recently, we wrote a CRM sample, and the total number of lines of JavaScript is really, really, really small.
I guess what I would say is if you try and put all of the logic in the cloud, then why not just make a website?
So it's for times when you need to access device-specific features, or if you need some offline storage, or if you need it to sort of behave and like a native app in terms of responsiveness. So if you're generating your UI website on the server side as well, then it always feels laggy. Whereas if all you're doing is just going off to fetch some data, then you can still make it feel responsive.
So given that the different companies are basically competing on the number of apps in their app store to some degree, and given that writing it in HTML and JavaScript makes it really easy to port between the different platforms, why are they supporting this? Why don't they want you to write everything in native code so they can lock you into not being able to port your app to run on other devices, which are their competitors?
So it depends who you are. If you're Microsoft, you just want to get as many apps because you're starting from behind.
Yeah.
Apple haven't been particularly friendly to these, but then what they say is they don't mind as long as it feels like a native app. So the Facebook one's a bit crazy because they generated all their UI server side as well and then sent that down. But then it feels laggy, so it's a bad user experience. Whereas if you're doing it all locally, then they're happy. Questions? Cool.
Thanks, Kevin.